Move myself out of the way there. Okay, so you're going to create yourself a Venn diagram as we go through the note page that's there. The title for each side of the Venn diagram is up here on the board. One side is going to say Buddhism, and one side is going to say Hinduism. Okay, so Buddhism is on one side, Hinduism is on the other side. We're going to kind of examine each of these religious beliefs so that way you kind of have a better understanding about what goes on the Eastern Hemisphere side, specifically India. Buddhism and Hinduism is also a very, very large growing religion within the world today due to the idea of global connectivity, how everything has spread out over time. Most all nations have the idea of different religions in it. Okay, it's not like it once was. Where this country was only this religion and this country was only this religion. Everything's kind of spread out. And this kind of gives you some of the ideas of the foundations of what they were. Now, it's not going to be, sometimes it is, it's going to be like a point blank bullet list of Buddhism is this, 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 Hinduism is this, this, this. There's going to be some that are interacted together. Okay, so you've probably all done a Venn diagram before. If it falls only under Buddhism, write it under Buddhism. If it falls only under Hinduism, write it only under Hinduism. If it falls in the middle, or if it's an iffy chance, okay, write them in the middle. You can scratch down on the bottom of your paper to where if there's something that you want to put back in there, but you're not exactly for sure where it goes, you can kind of go back and look at it and put it in the correct form of where it is there, okay? All right, so it says trade spreads Indian religion and culture, okay? So when I trade something, is a good the only thing that is traded? When I trade something, is a good the only thing that is traded? I see some of you shaking your heads no. What are some things that also are exchanged whenever you go to trade, barter, exchange goods with people? What are some other things that are exchanged? What's that? You say a royalty? Loyalty, okay? You could be loyal to the people you're trading with to be able to build a good relationship with your traders. That comes in very handy with countries and alliances to be able to feel loyal with each other, kind of have a bond with each other. What else? What's that? Okay, so you're trading those goods, and that's still a good, but other than the actual physical product that you're trading, what else are you exchanging at the time of trade? What's a possibility of knowledge? That's a big one, right? Okay. So whether you know it or not, if I go from this country and I go from this country and I meet in the middle, and even if I'm just having a casual conversation and I say, man, you should see what these guys over here are doing, all right? They've loaded up all their stuff on carts and wagons with wheels, and we're pulling them over. I cut my time in half times 1,000. Okay. And the next thing you know, this next country is like, hey, I heard this guy is using a cart and a wheel. It's a whole lot easier than what we've been doing. Next thing you know, you've had a cultural exchange of knowledge. Okay. And all of a sudden, you've advanced another civilization to what it is. All right. I'll kind of give you an example of this one. The internet has sped up everything of what it is, but you guys probably know of a person similar to this. It used to always been like small towns would be like in a time warp of like 5 or 10 years behind what the major cities were doing. You know what I mean? That was before everybody could get on TikTok, everybody could see what was on social media, everybody could kind of speed up to what it was. But you would see these kids that would either say certain words or would dress a certain way, but it would be like an old fad in the Metroplex. It'd be an old fad in New York City. It'd be an old fad somewhere else, okay? How many of you have ever seen like Russian people? You've ever seen like, you know, the people in Russia that are still wearing like old school jumpsuits and everything else, and like the music, the videos. There's countries like Baywatch is the biggest thing in the world to them, which is very old to us, but it's new to them, so therefore they're behind the times. That's kind of that lag that happens with trading, okay? What else could be exchanged? Say what's that? Yeah, so exchanging goods again, of, if we talked about Crete, as far as an island that's there, if they don't have a ton of a resource that is lacking on an island, they can trade from one place to the other. Again, different ways to make the tools, things like that. What am I doing to you right now? We're talking. And if I'm talking to someone who doesn't speak my language, one, I'm going to not continue to trade with them because we can't understand each other, or one of us is going to figure out a way to communicate. If I really want what they have, I'm going to figure out a way to be able to communicate with what they got. Now it's easy. You got Google Translator. You just look into your phone, you speak it, and all of a sudden it tells you back what it is. But back then they had to figure out how to trade with people that didn't speak the same language, that looked differently than they were. What if a word, and this still happens today, what if a word in this language means this, but a word in this language means something very different? There could be a lot of confusion there, correct? All right. So if I say a word and in my language, it means a beautiful flower, and in the other one, it's offending someone's mother, then we're in trouble. Okay. You got to figure out a way to make sure that the words align right there. Okay. So it says traditional Hindu and Buddhist beliefs. Hinduism blends Aryan and other beliefs, the beliefs in many gods. All right. So that's a big deal for you to write down on your first one, kind of guiding through it right there. Okay. So Hindus believed in many gods. Okay. What's that called? You're all over it. Keep going. Polytheistic. Very good. Polytheistic. Poly is multiple. Okay. So multiple gods. Mono is single. Poly is multiple. To Buddhists, the desire causes suffering, but suffering can be overcome. All right. So we'll get into this a little bit more. But the idea that your desire for things, your want for things, is what causes your struggle. And you being able to overcome that struggle is a huge instance. All right? Being able to overcome your struggle. All right? All right. The idea of, if I can get my thing to roll right here. All right. The forms of Buddhism. All right. The Buddhist idea is to save humanity. That's the whole thing. Okay. That's an important key part. I'm going to touch on just the key parts of this. The idea is to save humanity. Why would humanity need saving? What was going on during this time period? With any religion and with any idea that was looking upon man, what was going on at this time? Were they civil? Were they savage? Were they in between? How was humanity at this time? What were people like? What's that, Mr. Hill? Okay, in between. There was some good, there was some bad. Okay. Was there a lot of order at this time? Not necessarily. Everybody was trying to get their piece of the empire, get their piece of the pie that was there. Right? So there was a lot of kind of savagery compared to what we would consider a civilized society. There was a lot of, kind of rough, bad stuff going on with the way humans treated each other. So the idea of looking out, okay, and we'll kind of get to a story here in just a second. So it talks about the idea of Buddhist following the ideas and the teachings of Buddha. Okay, so that's going to be the main emphasis for Buddhists, is following the teachings of Buddha. So make sure you write that one down in there. Buddhists followed the teachings of Buddha. What do y'all guys think of whenever you hear the word Buddha? What's the first thing that pops into your mind? Yeah, little short dude with big old belly, sitting there with his legs crossed. He's kind of laughing and giggling. I know whenever I drive through my neighborhood where I live at, about 4 houses down, there's like this glowing shrine that I can see through one of my neighbor's window, and there's a big Buddha doll that's in there. And that Buddha doll is lit up, with everything else behind it. And for our culture, for the majority, that's different. You know what I mean? But the big deal is being able to understand and having some form of tolerance for other religions that are out there. And again, like we talked about yesterday, it's gaining a knowledge, understanding why people do what they do. So then that way you can kind of have an understanding of it. Okay. So the Hindu rebirth. All right. So here's the big part down there. We've already talked about Hinduism being monotheistic. The other one we talked about being polytheistic. Hinduism is monotheistic. All right. gods are part of one divine force. All right, so there is one path, there is one person that answers everything that is there. All right, the chief god in this, it says, is Brahma. We just talked about that. All right, then you have a couple, the extra kind of, you know, we're talking about like the Trinity, you know, with the God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So if you kind of get into the idea of the creator of the world, the preserver of the world, the destroyer of the world, within the idea of Hindu, okay? But again, the main focus of Hindu right here is going to be the Brahman. Going to be Brahman. Anybody else need a little bit more time on this one? Still writing? Okay, I'll give it to you on that one. If I'm in your way there, you just let me know and I'll get out of the way. Everybody good now? Mr. Hill, you good back there? Okay. All right. So the idea of some of the Indian achievements, we're going to skip through some of these. And this kind of rolls in with the section of itself. And I'm going to go into what tomorrow, actually next Monday, the Silk Road. We used to do a nice Silk Road trading game, but kind of understanding what the Silk Road is. We'll get into a lot more of it on Monday. What do you think, though, like how we started talking off with, what's the most important thing of the Silk Road? What's the most important part of the Silk Road? Okay, it made for trading. How many of you know what the Transcontinental Railroad in the United States was? What's that? Anybody ever heard? You should have learned that in 8th grade history. The Transcontinental Railroad. What does the word transcontinental mean? Yes, exactly. It connected coast to coast. All right, so the west to the east. So it connected all the cultures of the United States together. All right? The Silk Road is essentially going to connect what's going to be the entire Eastern Hemisphere, because by the time that the Europeans find out what's on the Silk Road and they want what's on the Silk Road, by the time the idea of all the way to the coast of Japan to China ends up connecting along that Silk Road, you end up connecting the entire Eastern Hemisphere based upon a major trade route that is there. Okay, let me go back to this. And this one right here will give you a little bit more for comparison of the two there. Okay. All right. So inside Hinduism, off of this right here. Okay. So Hinduism, the idea, there we go. It's going to be one of them pop ones all the way through it. All right. There's no single founder in Hinduism. The idea through the sacred text, no sacred text, grew out of various groups in India. We already talked about the Aryans adding their religious beliefs to it. And the complexity, though, certain beliefs, that's what we're going to get into here. But you may or may not have necessarily wrote down, but that's a big first part, is there's no founder of it, okay? What does that mean, there's no founder of the religion? If you found something, you didn't make it. There you go. So there's not a specific person that is like the creator. Confucianism, it's not necessarily a religion, it's an act and a way and an idea. Okay, Confucius would be the founder of the belief. Okay, if you get into some of the divisions of Christianity, like some of the time they're called Campbellites. Okay, you know, there's a specific person. Mormons, you get into the idea of Brigham Young, some of the famous people that are through there. There's a founder of the exact religion that goes through it right there. Okay, the overall beliefs, and we talked about this one a little bit. Okay, God is one, but is known by many names. Everything in the universe is part of an unchanging, all-powerful force that's called the Brahman. Too complex for most people to understand. Is that the same way in most religions? Do most people understand what the main person in the religion is? No, you don't have an idea. You think of like Christianity and God, okay? Nobody's supposed to understand what God thinks, why what God does. There's a lot of questions that go unasked as far as that goes. Why is that? Why would in any religion people not necessarily understand the idea of God or their gods? Why would that be? Why would you not be able to understand some of the concepts of gods and things like that? Why would you not be able to do that? Are you on the same level as a god? No. Okay, you go back to the Egyptians, and the reason why the head of the Egyptians were powerful because they were supposed to be the people that could understand the God. They were speaking through the God. Okay, they were part man, part God. Then that way everybody else wouldn't understand, so therefore they had to go through them. Okay, so the understanding of it. The worship gods that gave concrete form of the Brahman. Gods are Brahman, the creator. We talked about this with the preserver and the destroyer. Okay, the idea about Hindus a little bit more. What's up? Not understanding. Yeah. I have never watched a Star Wars movie. What? Ever. What? Never seen one. Never watched one in its entirety. I wasn't in that era. Yeah. Now I had another coach. Coach Carter was here. Oh man, it offended him to no end that I never watched the Star Wars movie. I just never got into sci-fi part of that. Some of those were kind of different. What's it? Yep. Not my cup of tea. All right. So some of the main things in this one is, go down to the third point, and it says it usually takes more than one lifetime. So the idea of reincarnation, okay? Most all religions have something to do with an afterlife, okay? You have to have a promise of something once we're gone from this earth. It's not just your lights turn on when you're born, and then when you die, your lights go off, and then that's it. There's got to be a hope of something different. What is reincarnation? What does that mean? Reborn? What are you reborn to? Okay, like what? Give me some examples. You could be a cow, right? You could be a butterfly. You could be another human in another life. All right? So you're reborn, and the cycle continues based upon what you are or what you become or what you're going to. But there's going to be another life that goes in there. Okay, you kind of heard people in America. One of the deals are like, have I known you in another life? If something like has a connection, whatever else. That's kind of about one of the only things that we kind of go necessarily with touching the idea of reincarnation. It's eerie whenever you look at people. Have you seen the pictures of like somebody that's alive in like 1911, and then they show you a picture that looks the exact same as that person in like 2012, and all of a sudden, like kind of freaky. It's kind of weird. What? Yeah. Well, see, and they'll show people that have no relation. I mean, there's no DNA trait, there's no genetic deal, and that's kind of weird. You know what I mean? I mean, if you start looking at kind of stuff, and all of a sudden you see this other person that could be you in a past life, which is kind of a weird deal, whether you believe it or not believe it. So it says reincarnation is the rebirth of a person's soul in another bodily form. All right. So what carries on? Your soul does. Okay. So again, talk about the idea of Hindu, talk about the idea of Christianity, talk about everything else. It's that you have an earthly form, but your soul continues to travel. Whether it's your soul going into an afterlife of heaven or hell, whether it's your soul going into another body of reincarnation, but the idea that the soul carries on, and that's a lot of instance. Again, why would this be something that was pushed to any person from any different religion, from anything else? Why would the idea of your soul continuing to go on, why would that be important to the people that are there? Hope. Why would they need hope? Yeah, you have a chance to get better if you live a good life, right? So again, we talk about the idea. The world at this time is the majority of the people are not living a good life. You know what I mean? I mean, you wake up every day, you go and slave yourself and labor away, and then you go back home, you get a couple hours of sleep, you go back and you slave your life away, and you go back and you go there. So what makes these people want to do a good job? It's the opportunity that if they do a good job while they're alive, then that soul is rewarded in the next life. Okay? They're not causing trouble. They're not everything else. Again, to me, religion is also a very, very good way of keeping people in check because of how you preach it to them. Okay? Kind of keeps everybody in line. How many of you have ever heard of the word karma? Karma. What does karma mean? Yeah. All right. If you do something bad, it's going to come back to you. So if you're in the hallway and all of a sudden you see somebody else trip somebody else and they fall on their face, and you're just dying laughing, all right, you don't help the person up, you don't anything else, you're just dying laughing because they fell, and then all of a sudden you turn around and Coach Vosberg's door is wide open in the hallway, and bam, hammer yourself right in the forehead. That's karma. Okay. The idea of you doing something bad is gonna react in you getting something bad done to you. How many of you believe in karma? Got quite a few, okay? And then you kind of get the same thing of why does bad things always happen to good people? You've heard that deal. That's kind of the anti-idea of karma. But the idea of karma is your good or bad deeds affect one's future. And the future of those around you are either going to be good or going to be suffering. A lot of the idea, in Chinese culture, this is talking more about India, but Chinese culture, you are going to pay for the sins of your father. Okay. So if your dad, because the circle in the Chinese culture was, father to son, son to father, father to son, son to father, a continuous circle that keeps on going, even to the point of karma of if your dad lives a bad life, you're going to inherit the bad life of your father that's there. So trying to give, an incentive to be able to live a good life that's going to go in through there. All right. So the best one, the biggest one right here is kind of how things rank within the scheme of life for Hindus. Okay. Number 1's the Brahman. All right. Number 2 is humans. 3 is animals, plants, and all living things. Okay. That creates an idea that every single thing that is living is very valuable and very important, okay? Whether it be a cow, whether it be a butterfly, or whether it be a monkey trying to overrun your city and steal all of your food, okay? You hadn't seen any of those? Monkeys in India overrun the place because they don't necessarily kill them, all right? They don't contain them. They try to catch them and relocate them. Well, then the monkeys know where the food's at. So these little dudes, they had a CNN student news a couple of years ago. And it's so hot, in some of the places, there's not necessarily air conditioning, things like that. So, their doors are wide open. And all of a sudden you got this like pack of monkeys, this herd of monkeys that just flows into a house. And they're just going through cabinets and throwing stuff everywhere. They're looking for food. And it's just these little bitty monkeys terrorizing the city, and then it's like 2 animal keepers trying to catch these monkeys and take them out of there because everybody else can't harm the monkeys that are there. It says to help escape the wheel of fate, dharma, religious duties can help one acquire merit for the next life. The Vedas, as far as that goes, the religious text, that's a big deal that's on there. How many of you have ever seen or watched the show Lost? You ever heard of Lost? On that one up there. No, there's only one major one. It's called Lost. Yeah. So it was about, this is before DVRs. Crazy time before DVRs. Never watched Star Trek, but I watched every single episode of Lost. I remember you used to have to do this. You had to put a VHS tape in a deck, and you would have to schedule a recording to record on the VHS tape. And then that way, when you got home, you could rewind it and you could play it and you could watch it. But I would make sure that I was home at 8:00 on a Monday night to make sure that I could watch Lost. Lost had a ton of stuff. It was called the Dharma Initiative, the whole idea of karma going through there, the idea of if they were trapped in purgatory, yada, 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 the afterlife, all this stuff. A ton of the ideas of religious beliefs went into that show Lost. I think it's on Netflix now, but it's pretty interesting one. It would be a good one if you're looking for something to pass the time. I know like Grey's Anatomy came back for one of my classes a couple of years ago, and like all the girls were watching Grey's Anatomy. But some of the old ABC deals, like Lost would be a good one to go on there. Yeah. You burnt through the whole series in one summer? Straight binge watched it. There you go.
It was just football practice and that.
And Lost. I got you. All right, Buddha. Okay, so this goes on to the other side. All right. Buddha from the foothills of the Himalayas founded a new religion. So this one does have a founder. All right. He was born in 566. He saw as the first time protected environment, a sick person, an older person, and a dead person. Here's the whole thing that kind of goes. It says he left a happy married life to discover the realm of life where there is neither suffering or death. So the story goes that basically he is living inside of the city, okay, and he's protected because he's part of a wealthier family that is there. One day he ventures outside of the city walls, and kind of, the innocence of youth never understands what goes on. Like we don't understand what goes on within the confines of New York City. We don't understand what goes on the backside of 6th Street of Austin, wherever you walk by there and you see a ton of homeless people there waiting for their check at the government building, and the kind of lifestyle they got. We're kind of protected. We're in a bubble of Stephenville. So he's protected within the city walls, the confines of his pretty rich family. And then one day he ventures out, and he's shocked because he sees the suffering of other people that are going on a day-to-day life. It's not just always, the glitz and glamour of the Ritz lifestyle that's there. And then he begins to think that there has to be something more to life than what I have. There has to be a better form of life than like what he's talking about with the people of the environment, the sick person, the old person, the dead person. There's more going on. There's got to be some way and something better. And again, kind of goes on and dedicates the time that is there to be able to figure out what is going on with Buddha. We'll talk about this to kind of reach the idea. So he meditated and he fasted. 48 days meditated in one place, believed he understood the cure for suffering and sorrow. He was now Buddha. All right, so basically the idea, and the story goes, that he's sitting underneath this tree. He's meditating for this length of time. Again, a lot of this stuff kind of goes with, if you meditate and fast, what does fasting mean? You're not eating, okay? So basically you put your body into this diluted state to where there's probably a good chance of some form of psychosis to go on there. And you're supposed to relieve yourself of all the things that you normally think about and really be able to focus on one thing. And the story goes that the people saw his body, the soul, float out of there, okay? And when he's there, he reaches a state of necessarily what is nirvana, and we'll kind of get to what the idea of nirvana is here in just a little bit. But, we talked about the 10 Commandments, the things to live by, okay? So for Buddhism, the 4 Noble Truths. This is kind of the big thing. Like the 10 Commandments, there are the 4 Noble Truths. The first one, all life is full of suffering, pain, and sorrow. Man, that's the way to kick off a religion, isn't it? Okay? All life is full of pain, suffering, and sorrow. Yeah, pretty much. And then, you kick it off with that one, and you gotta follow it up in a hurry with, all right, well, I don't really want to join if this is what you're telling me, that everything is full of pain and sorrow. You want to tell them how to get rid of that pain, that suffering, and that sorrow. All right? The causes of suffering is the desire for things that are really illusions, such as riches, power, and a long life. Okay? So what does that mean? I'm going to read to you one more time slow here. The causes of suffering, the causes of number one, are actually the desire and the illusions of riches, power, and a long life. What do you think they were trying to convey to the people based upon that? What does that mean? if all life is filled with suffering, pain, and sorrow. What's that again? Yeah. Okay. One, that's a start. That rich people may not have the best life. You've heard the story. Money can't buy you everything, right? Okay. But what's he saying by the word desire? The word desire. And this still goes on in our life today. I mean, in all honesty. How many of you?
He wants it.
How many of you want more and more and more? Yeah, most people. I mean, if you're being honest with yourself, somebody wants something else. You're not really ever content and satisfied with what you have. And in some form, we're honestly taught that you should always want more. You should always want something better. You should always want this, okay? But what the idea of Buddhism is saying is that want, that idea of you wanting more and more and more is going to end up creating this wrong desire and take you away from the path to nirvana. So therefore, your sinful desire, your wanting of something else is going to take over what you should be chasing. And that is the idea of reaching nirvana. Okay? It says the only cure for suffering is to overcome your desire. And the way to overcome the desire is to go through the Eightfold Truth. So basically, if you can figure out that I don't want extra stuff, okay? And I go back into, the idea of Christianity because I know the story of, this rich young prince, which has done everything correct. He's lived a good life. He's done everything. And he says, I've done all this stuff. Am I guaranteed to go to heaven? And they said, the only way that you're guaranteed to go to heaven is if you give away all of your possessions and you follow me. And then you're like, wait a minute. Well, I've earned all this stuff. I've got all this stuff. This is all my stuff. But then that's tough to leave away. You know what I mean? And I think was it the one, the camel through the eye of the needle, as far as that goes, the hard path to be able to get to where you're going to go. Very few people give away. So when you think of this, who is someone that we could think of today that represents someone who's given up all desire, who's given up all riches, who's given up all power? They usually have a brown cloak on and a shaved head. Like a Buddhist monk, right? Move away from everything and go to the mountains. Remove yourself from all earthly things and only focus on what is of the present and what is of the religious value of it, okay? That would be a tough life to live, you know what I mean? For us, because we're so used to having all this stuff as compared to being removed from it. All right, so let's look at the Eightfold Path right here. Okay, thank you, sir. All right. So, review the right views, aspirations, speech, conduct, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and contemplation. So you don't have to write these down. That's a lot of them. But you can just put it in one bubble. It says live by the Eightfold Path. Okay? That's what I would write down for Buddhism on that part there. Okay? We're not going to have time to go into the actual readings of some of this. But that's pretty common. I mean, honestly, with any religion, if you have the right view, your thoughts, if you have the right aspirations, what you want, if you have the right speech, if you conduct yourself in the correct manner, if you live right, if you give good effort, all of that stuff kind of goes along, with any religion of how to get to where you're going to get. All right, here's your cheat sheet, kind of for the end right here. The similarities and differences, if you still have anything that's there. That'll kind of fill in some of the middle part of it. Then I'm going to start getting your report cards together, passing them babies out to you. I'm just going to call your name out, and if you'll come up here to me, please. If I don't call your name and you don't have one in here, Ms. Barnado really wants us to make sure we come back and get those to you. Jerry, take attendance by any chance? No. Ruby? Malachi? Hunter? Jose? Arsenio? Carrillo? Castro. Frazier. Ms. Gonzalez. Jaden. Lopez. Sierra. Gone. Martinez gone. Ashley. Camerlin. Destiny. Dominica. Hank's gone. She's right there, ma'am. Saldivar. Yes, ma'am. Valle. Whaley. Watley. Stuck together. Wilson. Hollis is absent today. Anybody else that I missed? Okay, Jaden, so we got to check on yours. I'll go down there in a second and see. Anybody else other than Jaden? Okay. Gotcha, Vega. All right, I'll check on y'all's too.
Hey, Coach Vosberg,
Yes, ma'am.
what is that?
Hello, Miss Hollis.
Hey.
I got your report card right here.
Oh, bad grades.
Well, I can, I'm not going to tell you everything you got there as far as that goes. I can take a screenshot to you and email you your grade, though, if you want me to do that for you.
Yes, please.
Okay. And if you want to, on, if you will, on that Venn diagram that you just completed, if you will take a picture of it and just email that back to me, please, ma'am.
Okay.
And then I'm going to compose this and then add a picture to it right now. Yes, that's it. All right, so I'm going to send this to you right now, Hollis.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, just sent you your report card.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to turn off the Zoom right now, and you have a good day, Hollis.
Okay, you too.
See ya.
Bye.